Now, ironically, the most dangerous year of my business career was one of my most successful ones. It seems to be we're fixated with failure and difficulties, especially in this coaching sector. But in my view, we seem to have everything backwards. When I was struggling with my business, the last thing I needed to do was sit down with a coach for 2 hours. I just didn't have the time. However, when my business was flying, that is when I needed the most help, and that echoes with the clients that I work with today. They're all doing really well, their businesses are growing, and that's when together we do our best work. When a business is struggling, you need a turnaround expert, not a coach, and they're totally different beasts. Now, nobody warns you about the challenges that success brings. Everyone prepares you for the bad years, the cash flow nightmares, the major client that walks away, the hire that goes terribly wrong. There's a whole industry telling founders how to survive failure, but nobody tells you what to do when it's all working. So let me take you into a room where this first dawned on me. Now, I want you to picture a boardroom table covered with forecast and balance sheets. I spent the morning with my senior management team mapping out how we were going to break the 2 million barrier. At that point, we were about 1.3 with a great order book, but we had a massive desire to double the revenue within 12 months. We were growing and winning by any definition you'd want to use. Now, over the course of that morning, it hit me. Now, I'm not talking a parting of the skies and a dramatic moment, a thunderclap. It was just more like noticing something that had been creeping up on me personally for months. The business was moving fast, and I could honestly tell you I had no idea what I was doing. I was flying without a safety net, and truthfully, I was scared. The business was growing faster in England than it was at home here in Wales, and what started as a Welsh company trading in England was rapidly becoming an English company now trading in Wales. Now, this isn't a country or culture thing. We were just quietly becoming a different company than the one I had set out to build, and that worried me and excited me in equal measure. Every week was full, every number was up, but I still had this sick feeling in my stomach. Now, I talked about this many times. I knew that at that point I needed some help because, frankly, I felt like I was losing control, and honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. By then, I'd had about 4 or 5 years business experience, but I'd also lost a business and everything by then. I hadn't experienced success like that before, so I knew I needed some help. So the same day, I rang an old boss of mine called Linda, wonderful lady. She'd already won Welsh Business Woman of the Year. She'd exited her business and she'd become a business coach. Now, she knew a thing or two about business and she'd also tasted success. So I booked our first session and it was 3 days later. I came to learn from Linda on our time together that what I was experiencing was the fog of success. And that probably catches more good founders out than failure ever will. When a business is failing, the path is really clear and obvious. Fix the cash, win the work, survive. Now, failure focuses you like nothing else. And that's because every decision is a clear test. Does this keep us alive? Failure or the prospect of it focuses you. Options decline, clarity is easy, and it's simple. Sell, survive, or die. Now, when a business is succeeding, that clarity disappears because everything is sort of working, so every direction looks kind of right. You stop choosing, you start going with the flow. The diary fills itself, the year passes, the numbers go up. On paper, it's been a great year, and quietly, there's a voice asking, is this actually what I meant to build? Now, I call that drifting, and I want to be precise about that word, since drifting doesn't feel like drifting from the inside. From the inside, it feels like momentum. It feels like you're being in demand. And busy is that great disguise of that. You can be flat out for 3 years, but you can drift the entire time. Now, drifting, even successfully, can feel good, but it can also be dangerous. You can go with the flow and end up with a business that represents nothing of what you tried to start with in the first place. Now, with no end goal in mind, and you end up miles away from where you originally set out to be, so you have to be intentional. So let me give you a analogy as an ex-sailor. If you set sail from the UK in a little sailboat with the intention of getting to Canada but didn't steer the ship or correct course, well, you could end up on a totally different continent. Brazil, geez, you could end up in France, Africa. Who knows where the current and the winds will take you if you aren't intentional? Now, all those countries are great, but not if you're trying to get to Canada. What if you end up somewhere cold when you were prepared for something warm? What if you only have equipment and supplies for 2 weeks, but you're at sea for 5 months, drifting? Now, the same goes for business and for life. You must set your end point, plan your course, and be intentional about getting there. Being intentional and living intentionally is a discipline, not a personality trait. It means choosing the destination on purpose, then setting about making it happen. And making it happen daily with the choices you make, the habits you adopt, and the things you do. Now, for me, there are 3 parts to this. First, and most obviously, you have to decide where the destination is, or what the destination is. What does winning look like? And I'm talking beyond the numbers. Now, revenue is great, and honestly, it's always been a big driver for me, but it's not everything. If you aren't careful, revenue can be just a vanity metric, and that means very little on the big scheme of things. So what's the revenue for? Perhaps the destination is actually an exit at a certain revenue figure. Maybe it's more personal, like the business is able to run itself while you take the whole of August off with the family. Perhaps it's about building something like a team that spawns great people and great careers. Now, whatever it is, I urge you, write it down, because vague intentions produce vague years. Second, put the non-negotiables in there from the start. Now, these are the things that you're not willing to lose along the way. Things like your health, your family, relationships. Maybe it's Wednesday golf. Whatever they are, they go in the diary before the business does, since the business will happily eat every single hour you leave undefended. Now, I learned that one the expensive way, and I talk about it here on this channel, so I won't bore you with that one again. Third, finally, audit the drift quarterly. Once a quarter, just sit down for an hour or 2 alone, with one question in mind. Am I and the business still going where I choose, or is it going where we are pulled? Now, course corrections are cheap and easy when you make them every quarter. They're really hard and expensive when you make them every 5 years. Now, I do a version of this across my whole life, not just the business when I do the Wheel of Life exercise. It's 10 areas that I score by myself, and it's clear to see where I'm drifting because the wheel is no longer round. Now, there's a Wheel of Life video on this channel walking you through the whole exercise if you want to go deeper with that. But for today, start smaller. Start with the one question, answer it honestly. Are you winning or are you drifting? Now, I've built a quick quiz to help you answer that question properly. There's 10 questions, and it takes a few minutes to get a straight answer on whether your growth is designed or it's just momentum. The link is in the description, and it's also pinned in the comments.